All right, we are live at lunch here with attorney Abigail Molina with Molina Immigration, where we melt the fear of ICE. Estamos aquí en vivo para contestar sus preguntas. Soy la abogada Abigail Molina con Molina Immigration, hablando sobre cambios recientes aquí en los procesos de inmigración con todo la nueva administración, lo que quieran hacer. So we're here today to talk about recent changes under the new administration, how all of those mass deportations are going, and answering your questions. So feel free to come in and ask any questions you might have. También hablo español, entonces si tienen preguntas, pueden poner sus preguntas aquí en los comentarios y voy a revisar y contestar. So we'll start by talking about childish things. I think that when people don't get their way, they resort to doing childish things to be annoying. And it's not something that's going to get somebody deported, but it sure does increase the annoyance level of working with immigration. And one of the things that they've started doing now is that they are their forms regularly get updated for different reasons. And for example, now that that there's a requirement to call non-citizens aliens, now everything has to be changed everywhere. All of the forms that previously said non-citizen have to say now alien. So in order to do that, they have to make the change, and then they have to issue this new edition. And doing that obviously requires a lot of work on the part of Immigration Service, so many tax dollars that are being spent just for the change from non-citizen to alien. And it also means that this change needs to be announced, and that anyone who is planning to use that form knows that there's a new form and that they start using that new form. Previously, courtesy says, like, the nice thing to do, or just the mature thing to do, is to acknowledge that people might be already sending this old form, or be in the process of sending the old form. And so let's give them some grace. Let's give a period of time where you can use the old form, and then we'll have the new form that will take effect on a specific date. So has that been happening? Has the government been following courtesy? No, of course not. So what are we seeing now? We're seeing that effective immediately, these forms, it's announced one day, and on that same day, God forbid that you mailed your application by FedEx the day before, if it arrives on that day or after that day, it's going to be rejected. So even more time is going to be wasted rejecting these applications, processing them, spending money on postage to mail them back out. Just all of the ways that that the government can create extra work and waste more money, right? So all in the name of being annoying. It's not going to make somebody deported, hopefully. I mean, there are some issues about deadlines. If someone has a deadline and something gets rejected, like, it could potentially go very badly just for missing, not giving some grace period to file that application. But more than anything, it's annoying for people who are seeking to get status. It's going to delay their case probably by at least a couple of weeks, maybe a month, because it's going to take immigration a while to process these applications, reject them, mail them back out, and then people will have to mail them back in. It's a huge annoyance that doesn't need to happen. Even if you gave 1 month or 6 weeks of grace period to say that you can use the old form, and then you're going to need to use the new form after that. That's just a small consideration that can be given. But apparently we can't expect considerations. That should go as no surprise. But this is done intentionally. I don't want to say that this was just like, oh, they forgot to give us a grace period. No, they did this on purpose. We need to understand that everything that is being done against immigrants and against those who are serving immigrants is done on purpose. It's not, it's not just because they forgot to do it or something. No, this is all on purpose to make our jobs harder, make it harder for people who qualify for status to get status. So this is an announcement I wanted to make. I'm not going to list all the forms. There's a bunch of forms that got changed just because of this non-citizen to alien. There's also been a change of, like, as we know, this whole fixation on gender, that now you have to choose male or female. So that's another change on the forms. A bunch of the forms got changed. Hopefully you haven't, you're not going to get caught up in that rejection of the form and having to reapply. But if you do, that's why there was no grace given for this new form. Estoy hablando sobre cambios en formularios de inmigración que normalmente lo que hace inmigración es que si tienen que hacer cambios en un formulario, por ejemplo, acaban de anunciar cambios en palabras que van a estar usando para describir o hablar de personas que son inmigrantes, que antes siempre dieron como un plazo de tiempo para presentar los casos, usar los formularios de antes. Ahora ya no están haciendo esto, no dieron tiempo de noticia, decidieron que de un día al otro iban a usar el nuevo formulario. Así que si presentaron un formulario que de un día a otro se venció, ellos van a rechazar todo el paquete. Esto va a demorar tal vez semanas o un mes y va a tener que rehacer la información, el paquete con el nuevo formulario. Hay varios formularios que afectan, entonces ten cuidado con esto. Hay que revisar si va a estar rechazado o no. Y todo esto es con intención de dar molestia, de darnos más trabajo. Vamos a tener que hacer todo el paquete de nuevo, se va a molestar los clientes y con razón, no es necesario hacer un cambio de un día a otro y eso no es lo que normalmente se hace, pero son los berinches, creo que eso es nueva palabra que acabo de aprender, creo que es berinches, son los berinches del presidente y sus amigos, así que ten cuidado con eso. Another change that happened in the last week was that the same thing happened in the first administration. Any applications that are denied, even if they are based on humanitarian basis, they are going to be referred for a notice to appear. That is the first step in the process of deportation. So essentially, file something. If it gets denied, you're going to be in the process of deportation. It's again, this is also not necessary. It does not need to be this way, and it was not this way previously. So this means just even more so, make sure that whatever application you're filing, that it has a very strong likelihood of being approved, because if it's denied for any reason, you are going to now be in process of deportation, and things still might work out for you, but it's going to make everything more complicated. I can't recommend that you take that route. So make sure whoever's helping you file these applications, that they know what they're doing. Work with an attorney, please. Working with an experienced attorney. Don't file these things on your own anymore. You will risk deportation if it's denied for any reason. Otro cambio que hicieron en esta semana o la semana pasada es de que anunciaron que como antes en el primer presidencia de Trump, ahora están diciendo que cualquier petición que se hizo que no fue aprobado va a ser si es negado su caso, lo van a mandar, lo van a referir para una deportación. No tiene que hacerlo. Antes no lo hicieron bajo Biden y otros presidentes, pero ahora sí, incluyendo casos humanitarios. Entonces, ten cuidado, asegurarse de que sí califica para lo que está solicitando, y las personas que están ayudando o si está haciendo por su propia cuenta, ten mucho cuidado porque cualquier cosita, si está negado por cualquier razón, va a ser metido en proceso de deportación. Y eso no quiere decir que va a ser deportado, pero va a ser mucho más complicado y trae el riesgo de deportación. Así que es decir, ten cuidado, ten mucho cuidado. Están haciendo esto también con intención de espantar la gente para que ellos no hacen las peticiones para los casos, aún los casos que califican. All right. So those two changes, the changes to the forms, additions, be careful about that. Also, be careful about the memo that was released that any denied application for any reason will be issued a notice to appear, which is the starting of the removal process. So please be very careful with that. All right, I am going to now take a look at any questions that we've had. Voy a estar contestando preguntas aquí. Si está viendo en Facebook, puede poner un comentario también y voy a revisar. Así que, ¿dónde estamos? Can an advanced parole holder travel internationally? And so, depending on what type of advanced parole, you're usually requesting it for specific reason. I would strongly recommend that you travel for that reason. Of course, like the advanced parole is for traveling for anywhere. But if you've put a specific reason on your petition, for example, like a DACA advanced parole, you're going to go visit a sick family member, I do recommend that you do that thing. It hasn't been this way in the past, but one of my concerns is that upon return, they could pull up that application and check to see like what was the purpose of your travel. And if it wasn't the same as what you actually did, there could be problems for that. So be careful with that, Mora. Hamid, you came to the U.S. before 3 months and didn't receive anything, no green card or social security number. I don't know if I missed a previous question. That's not a complete question. If you can give me more information, please. So if I can just guess, maybe you received your residency with an immigrant visa and now you're here. It can take about 6 months to get your green card. Hopefully you did the process, paid the fee that you need to do in order to get that. But just be a little bit patient. It can take up to 6 months or so. Your I-45 asylum-based application has been pending for a year. Should you be concerned? This is I Am Fresh Kid. Ours, I've seen them take about 2 years. So I think 1 year is probably too short of time. If you have any concerns about why it might be delayed, for example, maybe some recent criminal history or something, definitely check in with an attorney if you have any concerns about it. You'll want to be ready for that. Vicky's Bickles was transferred to the National Benefit Center. What typically comes next? That depends on the type of case. There's been quite a bit of movement we're seeing from place to place. So it just depends. They're constantly changing how and where they're processing stuff. Dwayne, you got your receipt notice in the mail. Does it have the biometric appointment separate? The biometric appointment is going to be separate, and it's not required for all petitions. So I'm not sure what petition you file. Oh, interesting. Okay, our first hater. How do you defend people who break the law the minute they cross the border? I would assume this is people who don't understand immigration law, and don't understand that that's a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense. And in our country, even criminals who are charged with a criminal offense, they are um, innocent until proven guilty. So that standard obviously is for the criminal court, but I don't know, maybe you feel strongly about representing people with criminal charges too. I don't know. Time to practice a new field a lot. Man, there's a lot of haters in here today. I love immigrants. I'm not going to quit doing what I'm doing. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, I hate this administration and what it's doing to immigrants, but I believe that immigrants make America great. And so I'm going to continue to help immigrants. This question, do we focus on immigration into or out of the US? We are getting some calls for people that are wanting to leave. I'm like, same girl, same. But we just do immigration into the US, not leaving the US. Ollie's got his immigration court for master hearings. What's your question, Ollie? ¿Qué seguro es la entrevista en Juárez? Acabamos de tener clientes que regresaron recientemente con su visa, con su residencia aprobada. Entonces, todo sigue igual. Solo recomiendo hablar con un abogado de inmigración que sepa que tiene casos ahí en Ciudad Juárez, porque si hay cambios, a veces no se va a saber si no está trabajando mucho en casos en Ciudad Juárez, pero si todo va igual en Ciudad Juárez, ese cliente tenía un perdón aprobado y salió y ya regresó y ya podemos ayudarle con el caso de su esposa ahora. Entonces, recomiendo seguir el proceso en Ciudad Juárez. Estamos viendo entrevistas como 6 a 9 meses después de recibir confirmación con el Centro de Visa Nacional que todo está en orden. Así que no sé si ya está en proceso, si no, recomiendo empezar su proceso. You got an RFE for an affidavit of support. I don't have a social security number or an ITIN. Should my husband file single or married taxes? You'll need to talk with a tax professional about what they recommend. It depends when you got married. Yeah, it depends when you got married. So I can't give you tax advice. I'm not going to pretend to do that, but definitely check with a tax professional. And they can let you know whether or not you can be on those taxes with your husband. New York, my U.S. citizen wife filed an I-130 in September of 2021. 3.5 years, no decision or no RFE. Is that a longer than normal wait? I would say so. Hopefully you're working with an attorney to figure out why that might be delayed so long. Ours are usually taking about 12 to 18 months. So that's a lot longer. But it could be complicated if you have any prior removal, like deportation history, or if there's any criminal history on either your wife or yours. So it could be a number of different reasons. But you'd want to start, I would say that that's outside the normal processing times for sure. So at least you want to start inquiring about it. Monica, can your employer file for your green card? Yes, sometimes. It depends on the type of work and it depends on your status. So talk with an attorney about that. What's the process for a person that was here from 2 months old, graduated K-12, married a U.S. citizen for 10 years? It's going to depend how they came here. A lot of kids were brought through the border without a visa, but they weren't, they didn't obviously walk across or they weren't carried across. Most of them were brought through the border, some kind of, using some kind of birth certificate of a U.S. citizen usually, or at least just saying like the baby is a U.S. citizen. So there are ways to process those without a waiver. It's complicated, and you'll want to work with an attorney on that case. At this point, I will let you know that we do free discovery calls. You can call and talk to us and see what we would recommend in your situation. Even if you're not eligible to file it without a waiver, you can definitely process with that waiver, but that'll depend on, if you've left, if you've had any kind of criminal history or contact with ICE. Also, you might have DACA. I don't know. You don't say that on there, but there's definitely options for you. So give us a call, 541-653-8899. What if you already have a removal order, but you submit a new form and it's denied? We need more information, more details on that. I'm not sure what application you're filing. Yeah, so Alex, I was saying that I-130 for a U.S. citizen spouse is taking about a year to a year and a half. This other person was saying they were pending for 3.5 years. So I'm curious, Alex, how long yours is? Oh, you've been taking almost a year. Yeah, so I think soon you should see that. Blendy, I don't know how to answer your question. I see you're asking it a lot. That's why I'm skipping it. She says, Abogada, can they help in the USCIS chat if you need an access code to create your account? If you have your visa, I'm not familiar with that process, so sorry, but it's worth a try to ask them in the chat. También estoy contestando preguntas en español. Si tiene preguntas. Pitchy, thank you. You're awesome too, and God bless you too. Do we offer asylum services? Yes, you can give us a call. Asylum is under attack right now, and so you need to make sure that you're getting up-to-date information about how to do that asylum case. Cassie, your partner has TPS and he's here. You want to marry him? You should marry him. Can you do it? Well, that depends. Like, are you free to get married? Are you currently married to somebody else? If he has TPS, I'd probably encourage, depending on where you live. Actually, I don't know where you live, so this depends. But some people with TPS can travel with an advanced parole TPS, and then they can adjust their status. So talk with an attorney. But if you want to get married, go get married. Hyra, I don't know if you can travel with advanced parole. It depends on your situation. So you'll need to check in with an attorney to know whether you're eligible or not. It depends on a number of factors. Lucy, should I submit my application, become a U.S. citizen, or should I wait? If you're eligible, please do it now. We need all the people to vote. If we have a vote in 4 years, please do it now. Lucy, I don't know how long you've been a permanent resident. If you have been a resident for, and you're married to the person who helped you get your residency and you're still together, then you can do that in 90 days before 3 years with that green card. If it was through something other than marriage, you can do it 90 days before 5 years. The actual cost for the I-765 when filing concurrently with Form I-765, I'm going to assume you mean like when filing concurrently with the I-485, used to be free. That changed last year. So I think it's $260 now. I still don't have all of the fees memorized, but somewhere around there. Yeah, you corrected it later, Form I-485. Is the travel ban going to affect green card holders? Which travel ban? Your work permit expires May 2nd, 2026. Should you renew it 6 or 12 months before it expires? That depends on what it's based on. If it has an automatic extension, I tend to tell people just to file it as close as you can to the expiration, because then you'll get a longer time, because you're going to have an automatic extension on that, but only certain types are granted the automatic extension. So check with that first. Otherwise, if it doesn't have the automatic extension, I recommend at least 6 months, but maybe more. But each time you file it soon, like, then you have less time on your renewal. Also, a change that we're anticipating, if you didn't hear, there was a not a memo, but like leaked information that the government is planning to end TPS for Ukraine, which is crazy. I mean, there's an active war there right now. So, but anyone who has TPS or is in, like, people just started renewing their TPS. So some people might even have petitions pending. If they end it, you're going to want to talk to an attorney about possibly doing an asylum or any other options. I was actually just talking with a woman from Ukraine last week, and I was like, no, you should, just stay on the TPS. And then in the future, if there's an issue with the TPS, you could do the asylum. But I was like, there's no way they're going to end TPS for Ukraine. But they had just had the meeting with Zelensky, and I was like, that didn't go so well. So maybe, definitely be listening for any changes with TPS for Ukraine. And then there was the leaked information that they're planning to do that. So I don't understand how they can justify that. And hopefully there will be massive protest about that, because like, how can we send people back? Most of them are like women and children who are here because their husbands are fighting the war in Ukraine. Like, how can we in good conscience send people back to that? That's ridiculous. What's going to happen to the I-130 applications for siblings? I don't know. The waiting lines for those are like more than 20 years long. But I don't know. I haven't heard any changes that are happening for that. Should you live together with your boyfriend first before getting married? You've heard the requirements. So there's actually no requirements for how long you've lived together, how long you've been married, if you're trying to file a green card for your spouse. Of course, it's easier to prove your relationship if you have lived together, or if you've been married for, longer than a few days. But you can still work on getting proof together. And if you don't have a lot of proof, for example, some people like live with family, and so they don't have a lot of bills or rental agreements in their name, but they can have those family members write statements. They can have their friends write statements. So there's other ways to prove your relationship other than time. There's no requirement. There's no minimum amount of time they have to be together. What's the process to apply for your brother? You're a U.S. citizen. He's in Mexico. That starts with an I-130, and then you wait for like over 20 years. Best one. Yeah, you just got to be patient. If you filed your green card and you responded to the RFE, they'll work on it and they'll get back to you. How long DACA renewals are taking? Sorry. I'm trying to think the last one. It seems like they're pretty quick again, but it's scary with DACA because sometimes they'll do them quickly and then they will like take longer than 6 months. So don't mess around with DACA. It doesn't have an automatic extension. Don't push it right up to the expiration date. Sometimes most of the time you'll get lucky, but it's those times where they decide to like drag their feet and take their time that then you're without your work permit while they're processing it. And especially with personnel getting laid off. Yeah. So they're clearing out the immigration courts, they're clearing out USCIS, and then, especially in the case of mass deportations. Like, how are they expecting the courts to do this when they're firing all these judges? But apparently Trump's throwing a fit that they're not doing enough deportations. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not in charge. If you have a 601A waiver, is it safe to go to your consular interview? Yeah, you're going to need to talk with your attorney about that. I don't know your situation. If there's, if you have any kind of reason why the visa might be denied, because the waiver just says that you're forgiven for the unlawful presence here. It doesn't address anything about criminal or drug use or, smuggling your child in, any of those things. So if you have any of those issues or concerns, definitely make sure that you re-talk about those. Even with our clients, once we get ready to go to the interview, like, we ask those things again just to clarify, because of course, like, our clients are nervous. We're nervous sending them. We don't want somebody to go out of the country and maybe not be able to come back. That's not a great situation. So you need to make sure, even if the 601A waiver is approved, that's not a guarantee that your visa is going to be approved. They can find other reasons to deny it. So you'll want to make sure you go through all of those possible reasons and leave. Even when we're sure, like, we're still nervous, we're still waiting. Like, how did it go? Were you approved? Are you coming back? So it is nerve-wracking. And I always tell my clients, like, everybody's always nervous about it, but we've done the work, so we feel confident sending people. And if you're not sure, like, really take that into consideration. Should you be attending that interview if you might not be able to come back? You've had your advanced parole I-131 pending for 8 months. Depends on what it's through. If it's for, like, based on a pending green card, that seems a little long. Armand, can you request premium process on what? Oh, you have an advanced parole. I don't think I-131 allows for premium processing, like 95% sure. But if you have an emergency, you can ask USCIS to expedite it. You have to prove what the emergency is. You could possibly get congressional liaison involved to push it forward. But yeah, there's no premium processing on it. But you can expedite it. Oh, the U visa. I can't remember if the U visa has an auto extension. I don't think it does. So definitely renew that sooner rather than later. And God bless human kindness. Thank you. Can you apply for a green card within a year after asylum approval or wait for the year? This is the trick. It used to be required that you had to wait for a year before you applied. And then they changed it and they said you just have to have 1 year after an approved asylum before you're approved for your green card. So it's tricky because maybe it's going to take USCIS over a year to approve it. In that case, you're fine. Or maybe they're going to process it super quickly and then you're not going to have that year complete before they approve it. Worst case, they would deny it because you haven't been here the year. You'd have to refile it. I think it's worth it to file it. I usually recommend like waiting about 6 months because I don't think that they're going to approve it faster than 6 months. So then you'll definitely have that year, but it's just a gamble. They were taking like 2 years to approve these, and then they made that change, and it was almost like they were trying to trap people because then they sped up the processing. So it's a gamble. Do we know what will happen with parole programs? So they've already ended CBP 1. Francisco, I don't know what kind of parole you have. Um, we're expecting, yeah, that the other humanitarian parole programs are also going to be affected, but we don't know. Equity for All says, "Thank you for so much for the work you do. Please stay strong and take care of yourself." I'm trying. It's it's a challenge, but this is important work. So thank you for your support. Will a simple traffic ticket put your N400 at risk? Usually not, but some people have a different idea of what a traffic ticket is. I've had clients tell me I had a traffic issue and it turns out it was a DUI, which is not, definitely more than a traffic issue, but depends on what that is, but usually not. Usually you're fine for an N400 on that. Um, Mela, I haven't heard of ICE detaining people with withholding grants. So people who won their withholding of removal case. Of course, it's always been a possibility if there's any reason to, or if they want to try to like reopen that case and show that the circumstances in the country have changed. But I haven't heard recently of ICE doing that. A speeding ticket, yeah. So it just depends, right? Like this is the answer that attorneys always give. It depends on the facts. So we're talking about like a speeding ticket where you were going 30 in a 25, or are we talking about going like 150 in a 35? Like it matters, but probably chosen, like I'm gonna assume it's just a minor speeding ticket. So you're probably fine. Your Irma, your 601A waiver was approved 3 months ago. How much longer for an interview? Oh, you're in Mexico, so it's a 601, not a 601A. Make sure that that whoever you're working with has contacted the consulate to ask them for another interview. You have to go through another interview, do another medical exam, all of those things all over again. Congratulations on your waiver. I'm curious how long it was pending for you, but they're in Mexico. Definitely make sure that someone is aware, because it's not you have to take the steps. It's not just automatic. You're fine, chosen. I was just using that to remind people that the details matter, and you'll be fine. How long are U visa applications taking for those of January 2022? We just got a work permit for a bona fide determination work permit for a U visa that we filed 2 years ago. So hopefully you've gotten yours as well. They're kind of like, seems like they're doing the most recent filed and then kind of working their way back. But those are going to take a long time. They're currently processing approvals for U visas from like 2018. So, and I'm not going to say it's going to be 4 years, because all of those people that filed between 2018 and 2022 are ahead of you in line, and they can only approve 10,000 of those each year. So that the line just keeps getting longer and longer. And the best estimates or guesses are that people filing now are going to be waiting about 15 years for an approval. So hopefully you've got your bona fide determination work permit and you can feel safer with that, but just be patient. It's going to be a while. Your EAD, your work permit was produced 2 months ago and not delivered. Definitely check in, call USCIS, make sure that they know that you didn't receive it. It might have been returned to them. If so, they can get your address and send it back out. But they can usually, like if you look on USCIS website, they can find out they'll put on there like your tracking number, so you can search through USPS to see if you can get that, figure out where it was delivered to. All right, my computer is like blowing up. Apparently, I need to jump off. I appreciate everyone who's been in here with me live at lunch, and I will check back in next week. Hopefully, everybody has a great weekend. Thank you to everyone who supports immigrants. Immigrants make America great. See you next time.